Welcome to the Viva Real podcast, Real Estate for the Americas, where we chat with local market experts in Latin America. Today we've got Lin Ronald from Remax. He's in Bocas del Toro, Panama right now. Welcome to the show, Lin.
Hey, good morning, Brian. How's it going?
Things are great, man. Wonderful. So can you start off just by telling our audience a little bit more about yourself and, how'd you end up in Panama?
Well, Brian, you can probably tell from my accent that I'm originally from New Zealand, but I kind of call myself a world citizen, and I was living in Southeast Asia, sailing for much of my life. And due to circumstances, I had to return to New Zealand, and life being what it is, I didn't have the success that I thought I would have in New Zealand, so I needed to retire and was looking around the world for somewhere where I could affordably get started again. And Bocas del Toro was on my radar. So I researched on the internet for quite a number of months before I came here. And the reason, of course, is that it's affordable and I can actually have a lifestyle that I could never afford in New Zealand, or Hawaii, Australia, the United States, or Europe. There's no way that I could do what I'm doing here. As I speak to you, I'm sitting on my boat dock with my feet in the Caribbean Sea. I'm on wireless outside my little house on the waterfront. My sailboat's tied up to the dock, and I could never duplicate that where I come from.
Man, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the best thing about Bocas del Toro that you found? When did you get there? You got there a couple of years ago, if I'm.
Yeah, I've been about 3 years here now.
Okay.
Well, Bocas is rather unique, really. For those people, first of all, it's really the only waterfront in the Caribbean that's got calm waters for sailboats and other boating activity. If you have a look at the map, you'll find that it's a very big kind of an archipelago with several big bays, and they're very calm and protected. We don't get any swell inside these huge bays. And yet at the same time, sitting from my window here where I'm sitting with my boat, totally safe for 365 days a year, I can paddle probably less than a mile out to the best surf in the Caribbean. Now that's amazing.
Wow.
You just don't get the combination of surf and tranquil waters in these areas anywhere else that I've seen anyway. So the biggest attraction, I guess, is the access to the Caribbean, the calm water, and the unique lifestyle that you can get in Bocas that can't be duplicated anywhere else that I've seen.
Wow, that's great. So tell me a little bit more about the cost of living in Bocas del Toro for those people that don't know what it's like in terms of monthly costs.
Well, this might be a little bit of exaggeration, but my power bill arrived at my house the other day. They deliver it by hand. And he brought it to me, I opened it up, and it was $6 for the month. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. Just to put you in the picture, I have no expensive things. I've got television, refrigerator, lights. I don't have air conditioning, but I've got fans and security lights out the front to light up the dock. But for $6, I took it to the office to pay the girl, and she looked at it and she says, don't worry, come back once it gets to $10. So the general cost of living is very reasonable here. I mean, in terms of European and New Zealand or Australian and American prices, just to give you a quick rundown, you can get a local beer here for 75 cents. You go to the supermarket. For two of us, I generally spend about $40 to $45 a week in groceries for myself and my girl. And gasoline has just come down, I must say. We're down to about $2.25 for a gallon of gasoline now. That's important here because we use boats to get around as transportation.
I can hear it in the background there.
Yes, they're little boats going backwards and forwards between the islands.
Great. And let's talk a little about real estate. You're in real estate. You work with Remax, and owning property. How difficult is to own property out there in Panama? Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, in reality, it's very easy compared to some other parts of the world. As a citizen of the world or the United States or wherever else, you have the full rights of a Panamanian citizen when you come to purchase property here. In other words, all of the rights and obligations that a Panamanian would incur when he buys properties are identical to what we incur when we buy property. So there's no, shall we say, there's no barrier to ownership of property. That's quite important, actually, because I remember living in Thailand for several years, and it was always in the back of my mind that if I'd bought a property in Thailand, it actually would be in my Thai partner's name. So as you get closer to 60, 70, maybe even 80 years of age, you've got this feeling in the back of your mind that it wouldn't quite be safe. But in Panama, it's totally protected. Your rights are exactly the same as anybody else. So that's a big bonus.
And now I understand they operate on the dollar as the currency. Is that correct?
Yes, we used to use US dollar every day. Makes a big difference also. Just in day-to-day ease of living process, that's a huge issue. I don't know if you've traveled around Central America, but to constantly change from, whatever the pesos and
pesos,
drive you crazy.
Yeah. What are property prices like?
There's several types of beachfront, of course. I won't go into a lot of detail here, but there's Caribbean beachfront, which has got surf and golden sand, and it is possible to get beachfront land in these areas for about $50 a square meter, which is quite expensive, of course, in my opinion. But we have a variety of different types of beaches. Once you come inside the big bays here, you have smaller beaches with no wave action, what we just call calm beaches, and they're much more reasonable. An acre of land here can be purchased for, I don't know, probably for anywhere from $50,000 for a waterfront acre of land here is pretty reasonable.
So why should expats, retirees, and investors, besides all the things you just mentioned, affordable cost of living, lots of activities to do, why should they consider Panama as a destination?
Well, the Panamanians are really trying to encourage us to be here. For example, I was in the bank the other day, and there's a long queue in the bank, and there's a special queue, very rapid, for people over 60. And I said to the guy, am I allowed to go in that queue there, in that line up there? He said, yeah, sure. Let's have a look at your passport. So I showed him that I was over 60. Now when I go to the bank, I go in that particular line, and I can be in and out of the bank irrespective of the number of people in there in less than 5 minutes. So those discounts and benefits for over 60s apply across the board. It's a standard rule that every restaurant has to give us 25% discount. Every hotel has to give us, I think it's 30% on the weekends and 25% during the week. There's discounts for internal air flights of 25% a pop. I think it's 25%. So the Panamanians are bending over backwards to encourage us to come here. The other issue is that there are some serious tax advantages for those people who have got a reasonable amount of funds to relocate to Panama. It's also very secure in terms of personal well-being. I have absolutely no fears to walk around the environment here at all. In fact, my daughter comes to visit me. She's 19, and I let her go out in town here to the clubs and pubs, and I have absolutely no fear for her well-being whatsoever, zero, and she feels totally comfortable. The other issue, which is a big one, of course, is that the general economy in Panama is surviving extremely well. In fact, it's probably the leading economy in Central America, I guess. So that in spite of the downturns in the countries where we come from, we are having a slowdown here, but it's certainly not as dramatic as we're experiencing in the United States. They're talking about a 5% growth here. At the very worst case, a 5% annual GDP increase in Panama. Whoa, how about that? Poor old Panama.
Let me ask you another thing. In terms of real estate investment opportunities, what's financing like? Is there access to mortgages? Do people typically pay in cash? How does that work?
Well, there is mortgage facilities available here for expats or for overseas personnel, but we recommend, because of the length of time it sometimes takes between application and approval or disapproval, as the case may be, sometimes the seller of the property will become so impatient because the process goes on and on and on and on and on that we recommend, in fact, all of our property purchases seem to be this way, that the buyer pays cash in the initial instance, and then if he needs to finance, he takes the title deeds or the documents from the purchase that he's made here and goes to the bank in Panama and does what we might call a refi, or in other words, presents the title documents or the evidence of his ownership to the bank. And it's much quicker than having to try to do it before the sale takes place.
To kind of sum up here, leave us with one word or phrase to just describe your experience in Panama.
Generally speaking, my experiences in Panama is extremely positive. I feel totally comfortable. I feel totally secure. The weather is very nice. It's a very tranquilo existence. I guess that's the best way to sum it up.
Well, Lin, thanks a lot for being on our show. This is the Viva Real podcast, Real Estate for the Americas, where we talk with local market experts. Thanks so much for being on the show, and we look forward to having you on again.
Okay, see you again, guys.